All right, let's start how the markets closed as at Friday. Let's see, the all-share index, 15-year high, touching levels not seen since 2008. 67,527 points is where we closed yesterday, 1.47%, 7,606 deals, volume 503 million. Let's see now, as far as the value of all those shares that were traded, 6.9 billion. Your market cap, that's the value of all the shares on the exchange that traded yesterday, 36.9 trillion. We're practically at 37 trillion. We're climbing. Invest in Nigeria, as we always say. So that's the equity side of things as far as the NGX is concerned. And it's been a good week for shareholders as we wait to see what else happened this week. So yes, okay, energy. Let's get to commodities. Brent crude, look at that, 88.39. Russia saying that they support Saudi Arabia's plans to cut production even more. West Texas Intermediate, that's North American grade, 85.34. Natural gas, $2.82. RBOB gasoline, $2.06. Biden administration in the United States particularly worried about levels not seen. That's fuel prices not seen since 2012. That's what we're seeing on the energy front as far as yesterday is concerned. Now, the European markets, pretty mixed bag yesterday. The Pan-European Stock 600, which spans across much of Europe, that was down pretty much flat, but flat to negative. FTSE 100 over in the UK, up by 34 basis points. And then you can see now with the DAX in Germany, where of course things haven't been looking very well for the Germans, the largest economy in the Eurozone, that's down by 67 basis points. CAC 40 over in France, some French companies actually have suffered from what's going on in Gabon because of the interests there, like oil and gas and so on, manganese, 27 basis points down. IBEX 35 over in Spain, where they've got some political brinkmanship as far as leadership of the party, or rather of the country is concerned, down by 59 basis points. So a whole lot going on in Europe. Shareholders a little bit on the edge, but you know, there's still much to go on for. All right, across the pond in the United States of America, over in North America, Dow Jones Industrial Average, 16 basis points to the good, 34,772 is where it closed. The S&P 500, 3 basis points to the good, 4,509. And the tech-heavy NASDAQ, that was down by 16 basis points, 14,021 points is where we closed there. So that's your overview of how the markets performed. A very, very interesting week. This is, of course, September, the last month in the third quarter of the year. So that's what we've been seeing as far as Wall Street is concerned. All right, now some of the top business stories that made headlines this week. Central African regional economy is in the spotlight as markets and trade came to a halt on Thursday at a Cameroonian town that borders Gabon, one day after military officers ousted President Ali Bongo in what's now the 8th coup in West and Central Africa since 2020. On Thursday, the African Union suspended Gabon's membership, the first regional response to the coup. The takeover ends the Bongo family dynasty's almost 6 decades in power and creates a new conundrum for a region hit with a wave of coups that Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has called a Pentagon of autocracy. Now, residents in border town Amban fear the prolonged closures of borders could harm local markets where Gabonese citizens make up a sizable portion of customers. Now, in the same breath, following the country's first debt for nature exchange in continental Africa just a few weeks prior, the military takeover in Gabon has caused the country's dollar bonds to see their greatest daily decline since the COVID-19 pandemic's height. Minutes after the State Electoral Board declared that President Ali Bongo had won a third term, a group of top military commanders in the Central African country declared on television in the early hours of Wednesday that they had taken control. The nation's bonds that needs to be repaid in 2025 experienced their worst decline, dropping as much as 14 cents before rebounding to end that day about 8.5 cents on the dollar as far as the bonds are trading are concerned. We just looked at the equities markets for Nigeria, but at the conclusion of the trading Tuesday, the all-share index of the Nigerian exchange soared to an all-time high of 66,490 points, sending a wave of elation through the Nigerian capital market. The index, of course, breaking the 15-year high of 66,371, established back in 2008, rising by about 51 basis points from 66,151 the prior day. Now, the market's historic success was mostly attributed to an increase in banking stocks. Yes, as investors attempted to profit on the recently disclosed record earnings by financial institutions. Net interest margins looking pretty good. Nigeria's economic growth, of course, slowing in the second quarter of 2023 as the gross domestic product grew by 2.51% year-on-year in real terms within the quarter, according to the Bureau of Statistics. That, of course, what we're looking at is year-to-date returns for a number of stocks on the exchange. But we're still talking GDP. Now, the Statistics Bureau said that it's in the Nigerian Gross Domestic Product Report Q2 2023, that was released Friday, the prior Friday. MBS said that its growth rate is lower than the 3.5% recorded in the second quarter of 2022. So a slowdown there, and maybe attributed to the challenging economic conditions within the quarter. According to that report, the GDP report, it was driven mainly by services, the non-oil sector, which recorded a growth of 4.42% and contributed about 58% to aggregate GDP, gross domestic product. Now, the Naira has been declining once more after the $3 billion loan secured by Nigerian state oil company NNPCL was meant to provide foreign currency markets with much needed dollar liquidity. Appears that may be stalling. According to information gathered from numerous street dealers, the Naira swapped for a new low of 9.20 to the US dollar after trading by as much as 8.50 to the dollar in street trading within 2 days of that announcement of that loan on August the 16th. Now, still in Nigeria, Festus Keyamo, Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, has suspended the Nigeria Air Project, the concession project, and other contracts, stressing that he owes it to the government and Nigerians to give an honest assessment. Now, the minister said the concession and national carrier will be suspended until he briefs the president. Now, Murtala Mohammed International Airport is shutting down for repairs on October the 1st. He also said that as far as that's concerned, it's going to be for total maintenance for that particular airport. Now, the minister therefore directed all international airlines to vacate MMIA, Murtala Mohammed International Airport, as of October the 1st. Now, President Bola Tinubu has declared that Nigeria will no longer sustain an economic philosophy that ensures the wastage of 90% of its revenues on external debt service amid many development challenges facing the country. The president said this in Abuja while declaring open the annual conference of the Nigerian Bar Association. He spoke on the same day the Senate unfolded a comprehensive strategy that would enable the executive arm of government to generate required revenue to liquidate Nigeria's debt profile and adequately fund the annual national budget. He stressed that the prosperity Nigerians require would only occur once poverty was banished from society with the focused cooperation of Nigeria's private sector leaders, many of whom were present at the opening ceremony of the conference. Across the pond, over in Europe, German government has agreed a €7 billion package of corporate tax relief in a move aimed at reviving a stuttering economy and polishing the image of a three-party coalition weakened by months of squabbling. Because that's kind of what politicians do. They squabble and argue. The bill comes as concerns grow about the state of the German economy, which stagnated in the 3 months to June after shrinking in the previous 2 quarters, underperforming all of its rivals. In the United States, U.S. conglomerate 3M Co. has tentatively agreed to pay more than $5.5 billion to resolve over 300,000 lawsuits, claiming it sold the U.S. military defective combat earplugs, according to people familiar with the deal. Now, the settlement would avert a potentially much larger liability that 3M sought to curb although a controversial bankruptcy case that ultimately collapsed. Now, the sum is about half the roughly $10 billion some financial analysts predicted 3M could end up paying over allegations that the earplugs didn't adequately protect the hearing of service members. Moving on to Asia, in Japan, the unemployment rate climbed for the first time in 4 months in July, according to the country's Ministry of Internal Affairs. Now, the jobless rate increased to 2.7% from June, missing estimates of 2.5. Now, the number of workers fell by 100,000 from the previous month, while those without jobs rose by 110,000. Still in Asia, Japanese motor industry giant Toyota suspended operations early in the week at all of its assembly plants in its home nation due to a glitch in a productive system. The move had brought domestic production at the world's biggest selling car maker to a standstill. The malfunction has meant that the firm had not been able to order components. The company did say that it plans to restart operations on Wednesday, August the 30th. Now, in total, the 14 plants are estimated to account for about a third of Toyota's global production. Still talking about vehicles, Uber now. It has launched an electric motorbike service in Kenya. It's first in Africa, as the company seeks to make its global platform emissions free by 2040. That's ambitious. Now, the rollout in Kenya will be followed by a potential announcement this year for the rest of its markets in the region, according to Kagisho Kaole, Uber's general manager for sub-Saharan Africa. Uber's other markets in sub-Saharan Africa are, of course, Nigeria, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Uganda, Tanzania, and South Africa. Uber's new green product in Kenya, dubbed Electric Boda, in a nod to the Swahili term for motorbike, will comprise 3,000 bikes within 6 months, or just under a fifth of its fleet. All right, that's it for the market roundup and top business stories for this week.